What is 360-degree design? We're going to be talking about that today on episode 17 of the Trove Design podcast with Charlie Briggs, myself, and my co-host, Andres Ramirez. Andres, I know I kind of posited this to you in the green room session, but I also want to just say it right now is what is 360-degree design? I can give the viewers a little bit of background, I think, to start. And yeah, for the viewers who are here, I was watching another podcast that is focused around tabletop gaming, specifically D&D, and they were really talking about their art and designing a campaign around 360 degrees, which is basically just the five senses. What can you, what is it? See, smell, touch. What are the other two senses? I blanking right now, Andres. Um,
I'll save you. Yes. So the five senses that we humans have is vision, touch, smell, taste, and hearing.
Thank you. Yes, yes. So they were talking about creating a cohesive system around all five of those, and it got me thinking around. Okay, if they're doing that for a game, are we doing that as designers within our particular designs that we're creating? Whatever type of designer you are we using those five senses, or are we primarily focusing on one sense and therefore leaving out a lot of really good design work, whether that's functionality or beauty, aesthetic from our designs? So, Andres, I would want to ask this first question to you, which is first of all, can you tell the viewers a little bit about what you do in the design world, and then maybe talk about what would be your discipline's primary sense?
Great question. So, for anyone that's new here, I am a professional graphic designer. So that's my primary study, and what I do is I create a lot of different experiences for people that have vision, or maybe that sounded really mean. Now thinking about that, for a visual experience, nervous laugh here. So that way you can convey a certain message, and that could be driven by marketing or by brand strategy, whatever comes first, or whatever the project entails. So that's what I would be doing for the projects that I do.
Awesome. Yeah. And for anyone who's maybe new to the podcast, Andres has put out a lot of amazing work on his Instagram. So I'll take away this banner here for a second so you can look at his Instagram handle. Please go give him a follow. He's done an amazing series on Stranger Things posters, and you can check out some of the graphic design that he's done, and the poster design that you've done on that. And then for myself, if you're new here, my name is Charlie Briggs. I am an industrial designer slash mechanical engineer, and I've been doing that for about 4 years professionally now. And so basically anything that you can touch and feel, consumer designed products, typically electronics, is really where I delve into. We have a previous episode. What was it, episode 15? Was it 15, Andres, I think, where we talked about the different types of product design. He's checking it real quick. I know that he's really good at doing that. So we'll put it down in the show notes. You'll have it linked here. You can go check that out and learn a little bit more about product design uh, as we get going here. So I think my discipline's primary sense is, I would argue, touch. I think visual sight and touch are maybe the two that are battling, the two giant senses that are battling there. But I would argue touch, just because typically you're interacting with these objects in a physical basis, and they're doing something for you physically to help you out. So that's what I would say for my question there. Andres, I'm going to ask you. So you mentioned within graphic design, you use vision a lot. So my question would be, how can we include some of the other senses? So thinking about this idea of 360-degree design, where you're designing for all of the senses, how can we include some of those other senses into graphic design?
It's a really tough question, and you really got me thinking really hard. And some stuff comes to mind super quick. So for anyone out there that is really into editorial, I would say it's when you can put a type of smell product in as a sample when you're promoting your perfume or some kind of beauty product or something like that. So for an example, I've seen people or agencies put in like scratch to smell in certain types of products. So for an example, in magazines, and also with some even stranger things where people have created markers so that where you draw and then it has a scent tied to that marker. So when you're looking back at this certain piece, a smell or scent has been embedded in the artwork. I think for hearing, I've seen some really interesting stuff out there where people have created pieces of art where or design, and they have somehow created a system with electronics. So when each color has a certain frequency, and when they tied some kind of wiring, I don't really know how this all works, and when a person has this chip tied to all the wires to the colors to this piece of artwork, it actually creates music. So that's another one. For taste, that one I'm not sure. Anyone that's watching this video right now, I'd love to hear your thoughts on how graphic design and taste can be incorporated, because that would be a good one. For me, right away, it could be maybe a poster that is made from edible products. So that way you can see the poster and now you can eat the poster. So that could be something. For touch, I would say graphic design and user interface design or UX design. That's probably, or UI design, sorry, those are two totally different things. What I meant to say is UI design, user interface design. So graphic design and that industry kind of not really, but kind of tie each other. So when you're looking at a piece of software on your phone, you can interact with it. So that's as close, I think, with touch that I can think of right away. But again, there's a lot of smart people out there on the internet. So you guys are you people out there can help me with this. All right, over to you, Charles.
Yeah, that was a great answer, and I think just to kind of echo off of what you were saying there around, I know a lot of graphic designers who also practice user interface design, and particularly coming from the tech world, a lot of these individuals came from kind of a graphic design background. So definitely some overlap there. That's really cool. Yeah, I love how you were able to actually just pull out all of the different types of senses. I'm probably not going to be that eloquent in my delivery of some of my suggestions, but yeah, within product design or industrial design in particular, I think obviously we focus a lot on touch in terms of the different materials and the different forms that these things take, whether that's a mouse for your computer or your phone. There's a lot of touch sense within that. In terms of visuals, obviously we play with color a lot to be able to say, okay, you need to either, if you want a button to be touched on a product, then it's like, okay, we outline that button in a particular color. And maybe if a product needs to have a couple different dials changed, like say a digital camera, before you can take a photo, you can outline each of those buttons with a particular color set so people know to go through and adjust those settings before they take their picture. And I would say so that we have touch and vision there. So for smell, similarly to you, Andres, I think that having kind of a smell associated with maybe a particular task or a particular item that you're using, I know that you can think about different things. There's a new product on the market called Drift. We're not sponsored by them, but they're basically a car air freshener that has some industrial design concepts behind it, where it matches a particular metal and wood to produce an amazing aroma in your car. And I think that having smell attached with industrial design is really cool, because I mean, you're obviously interacting with these objects, and depending on where you are, where the object is, I think can really help determine some of these techniques around smell. So if you're using an object in a subway, that's a lot different than if you're using it in a bakery, right? And you're associating using that object with different smells. So okay, how can we change maybe the color or the look or the function of this object to replicate that? So what do we have? I think what is it? Taste. Oh, you pulled it up.
Oops.
Yeah, that's
So
Drift.
sorry. I
Uh,
didn't realize when. Sorry, everyone. Just to interrupt really quick. When you share a screen, that it just pops up automatically. I was trying to do this behind the
Pops up.
scenes and then prompt Charles later. So sorry to interrupt, Charles.
No worries.
I didn't
So
expect that.
yeah, Drift, or if anybody is from Drift and you're watching this, please, we could maybe sponsor you if you want to sponsor us. That would be great here on the channel. We're always looking for that as our next step, and as we're growing this podcast. But yeah, they have. I've been seeing their ads for a long time. They have some really good uh, product design, I think, just
Is
along their
Charles,
products.
just to stay on drift for maybe
Yeah.
one more minute, is there a particular product that I can maybe talk about? I see they have a
Uh,
stone freshener, wood freshener, and a metal
the
freshener. Which
wood one
one?
is the one that I particularly I see quite a bit, and I think, yeah, but it looks as if, I mean, it's just, yeah, maybe if you click on one of those. So there's the main clip that, clips onto your car, drop down visor, and it looks as if, you can kind of exchange these with different types of, whether that's, what was it, the wood, the metal, or the stone, to create these different scents, that you have in the car.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing this, Charles. It's very interesting. And then just to tie it into the conversation, I think this also goes in with touch, right? So
Mm-hmm.
even though it has scent into it, you have to physically use this and move it around and first impressions and stuff like that. So yeah, this is a good one. Yeah.
Definitely. And those two are tied because of the location that the product is being used in, right? It's like,
Hmm.
okay, we know that it has to take a particular form because it's in a car, so you don't want it to be a massive air freshener. It needs to be small, compact, take up a little bit of space. Where have air fresheners been used in the, like, historically within cars? Okay, do we want to stray from that, either hanging it over the rear view mirror or clipping it on a thing? Do we want to stray from that into, okay, it's a headrest, so every time you hit your head on the headrest, it like does a puff of fret? You have to look at some of those things, some of those considerations before you can actually design the full product. So I think that, yeah, Drift is just a beautiful product in my opinion. And then, yeah, so the next, what would it be? Taste. And what other one am I missing here, Andres? Sound, I believe. So yeah, in terms of sound, I think that one in particular, especially when you look into things like speaker design, that's a huge component of industrial design, especially now with the boom of Bluetooth and portable speakers. There's a lot of, I'm not a sound designer by any means, but there's a lot of considerations that you have to go into with creating a really particular set of sounds that you want, whether that's like a melodious, like clear sound, or if you want maybe more of a distorted sound, bassy, trebly, what do you want there? So there's definitely a lot of auditory design that has to go into certain industrial design products. And then the last would be taste. And yeah, Andres, this is interesting. I really liked your idea around taste with like edible posters. It made me think about whenever I watch like chefy shows, you have the plating, and it's almost like they're making a poster out of the food, and like they make it appealing to look at, and then you can eat it. And that's the instant I thought. So it's like, what if you go to a movie premiere where they make a poster out of some food, and like that's your dinner or something? That would be an interesting idea there. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that more, but while I'm trying to think about edible for industrial design.
Yeah, it's interesting for this. I think the show from Netflix comes to mind. I can't remember the title completely right now, and I think it's something. Is it Cake or something like that? And it's where a chef or a baker, I should say, has created a hyper realistic version of something. So, for an example, it could be a toy, it could be a book. And so the audience or something like that, I think the audience or the participants have to guess is which one is real and which one's cake. And so that's something that could be like that too.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think as a taste portion of industrial design, you can think about, my first thought was kind of like summer popsicles, and the different shapes that popsicles have. That had to be designed at some point, and to say, okay, we have this iconic popsicle shape. Now everybody knows if they just saw a silhouette, black and white silhouette of this product, that it would take the shape. But there's other considerations too around taste, where it's like maybe you want to release a certain taste at a certain time, and so you put it in a different place. You put that food, or that, in terms of popsicle, different flavored popsicle in a different location, and you can kind of play with the shape of the popsicle and the tastes of the popsicle to create a certain experience for the user, which would be somebody eating that popsicle, right? So I think that's the most I've ever said popsicle in the last year. So let's maybe move on to the last question, Andres. Oh, perfect. Which is, so 360-degree design practices. So we're talking about this because it can help your designs out by taking into account more around the surroundings and the use of these designs and what they're for. But Andres, I was wondering if we could maybe brainstorm a couple of practices for the viewers. And viewers, if you have any ideas around different practices that we can do to incorporate 360-degree design, please put those in the comments section below. We'd love to hear around, maybe some of your thoughts. You're definitely, the internet is a very smart place. And so I think that people can come up with some really good ideas here. But Andres, I didn't know if we wanted to just riff for a second on what are some different practices that we could maybe come up with.
This reminds me of a restaurant, because when you think about a restaurant, you think of all these senses that we have as humans. So vision could be the marketing, the touch is the different materials that when you go to the restaurant, like what kind of chair are they using, and that goes into industrial design too. So if a really high-end restaurant probably may hire Charles to design the tables and the chairs and maybe even the utensils, so that way that's what sets them really apart from the competition. And the smell, the aromas from the cooking, let's say it's a vegan restaurant or something like that, so it really attracts that type of crowd, and that falls in suit with the tastes, the types of plants and stuff like that, and also the type of music that they're playing in the restaurant. So for an example, Charles, maybe it's maybe a rustic modern type of restaurant. I'm trying to think off the top of my head,
Like a
and
farm to table type thing.
yes, exactly. Thank you. And maybe some of the sounds could be the wind at a farm or something like that, or it could be little things like that. Maybe it's the quacking of ducks or something like that. So something very satisfying, and something that transports you to a whole different area than you are in a restaurant in a city. So that's my off of the top of the head idea.
Yeah, I love that. That as you were talking, I was just kind of realizing that you used a really good word there around experience. And I think this is, maybe to a certain degree, this is just a different word for saying experiential design, right? And you have all the senses, like you mentioned, in a restaurant. And I could see how maybe graphic design, industrial design, all of these different practices are kind of incorporated all to create this particular experience, right, for the customer. And so maybe we're just talking about experiential design when we talk about 360 design. But if you want to narrow it down into, instead of saying, okay, you are experiential designer, narrowing it down into, okay, how can I take the vision of this experience and integrate it, or distill it into this table that I'm designing for the restaurant, or this lighting fixture that I'm designing for the restaurant? How can I do that? And I think being able to play with different mediums than you're used to is something that could be really helpful. So maybe that is, for some reason, the first thing that comes to mind is like a poster design. For some reason, it's not even my field of study, but is, instead of just hopping into Photoshop or wherever you create your posters, taking the food that the restaurant makes and actually physically placing, here's a thing of broccoli and the fish, and making the poster physically versus digitally, or in a different way. Or you take things that smell sweet and that dictates a certain poster, or different things of that nature. Is, okay, how can we kind of mess with our typical process? And maybe that's really what I'm just trying to hope people get from this is have fun with your process. Like, we're creatives. Creatives love a certain process usually, but I think, like, let's get creative with our processes as well, and try different things out. And maybe that's you know, doing stop motion with clay, or you want to do something else. I don't know. But that's really what I'm hoping, is that people can just kind of continue to find the creativity within the process to help get this 360-degree experience um, out to the client or the user. So,
Amazing,
okay.
Charles. I think that's a great note to end this episode. Unless you have anything more you want to ref on, but I thought that was an
No,
excellent conclusion.
yeah, I'd love for you to close us out here, Andres.
Thank you so much, everyone, for watching this video thus far. And if you are wanting more content from us, consider subscribing to our channel and leave a comment below. And we would love to hear what you have to say about the topic we just talked about, and any other ideas that sparked as we went through this journey with 360 design with Charles Briggs. The last thing I want to actually add really quick, and this is something we talked about in the green room, Charles, is when we think about 360, I would also consider everyone to challenge themselves with accessibility. So, for example, if going back to our rustic, modern farm to table type of a restaurant experience, is that maybe on the rails, that when somebody is walking up to the restaurant, it has descriptive types of hold on, what I'm trying to say is, if there was braille on the rails, and so that with people that need that, they can actually still be part of this experience and understand what's going on. So it'd be almost like real life alt text. And if you don't know what that means, it's just a way to describe an image that's on a website or on the internet. So that way you can also incorporate those people as well. So that'd be my last note there, Charles.
Physical alt text. I love that idea. I wonder if there, I mean, I'm sure there is a design studio that's kind of focused around that, but I think that that's a beautiful, beautiful idea. So thank you for closing that out. Thank you, everyone, for watching and staying with us this far. And we will see you in episode 18. We'll see you on the next one.